Hey, over the last couple lessons, we've been looking at Jesus fulfilling the law in the Sermon on the Mount. And he's really been talking about something that I think is very important. He didn't come to destroy the law, he didn't come to wipe out the Old Testament. He came to fulfill it and he came to build upon it. That's really what he's trying to get across. And in Matthew chapter number 5, verse number 19, we are looking at the second major thought here. The law is just not indestructible, but the law is important. Let me read verse 19 for you. It says, "Whosoever therefore shall break one of the least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." Here we're seeing again the importance of the law, and Jesus is warning about two major things. Don't be hypocritical when you teach. Be hallowed when you teach. Don't be hypocritical, be hallowed. Now let me say this. I'm a pastor. My job is to teach the Bible. That's what I do every week, multiple times a week. I'm constantly living that. While I teach on a macro scale, if you will, in a church, I am still instructed to teach on a micro scale within my home. Parents ought teach children. Husbands ought teach wives. Okay, wives ought teach daughters. Husbands ought teach sons. Women ought teach new women in the faith. Men ought teach new men in the faith. We are all instructed to teach on some degree. There is the micro teaching that takes place within the home and when the one-on-one discipleship. And then there's the macro teaching where we teach on a large scale at church. Everybody really is instructed to teach, and it is important. But when you teach, you need to make sure that you know what you're talking about, because Jesus here is saying that teaching the law is a big deal. There are repercussions for not taking it seriously. In fact, I'd say in modern Christianity, the reason why so many false doctrines and issues have come up is because people don't know what they're teaching. They haven't studied. Now, you don't have to go to Bible college to be a Bible student. You can study with some good books at your home and learn some things, and you can wrap your mind around it. But you need to be willing to teach, and need to be understanding of how important it is to teach properly and to teach, here's the word, biblically. Jesus here is warning about hypocritical teachers. And he says it again in Matthew chapter 5, if you teach the law and you take one of these small commandments and you teach somebody wrongly, you are going to have a small part in the kingdom to come. And so he's talking about being a hypocrite. It's a big deal. Now, in Jesus' day, there were a group of teachers called the Pharisees. And the Pharisees are a well flushed out group of people in the scripture. These preachers and teachers and Sunday school teachers, if you will, that's kind of how we would see them in our modern day, that were in the synagogue. These were people that were responsible for getting the law out into people's hands and helping them grasp what it was teaching. The problem with them is that when they taught, they were very hypocritical in the things that they did. In fact, you should read sometime Matthew 23, where Jesus gives his condemnation of the Pharisees. And really starting in verse 13 all the way to 36, there are several times that the word woe comes up, W-O-E, and he's like, "Woe unto you, Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, neither go in ye yourselves, neither suffer ye them in your entertaining go in." Verse 16 says, "Woe unto you, ye blind guides! Whosoever shall swear by the temple is nothing, and whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor." And he goes on and he says, you guys are hypocrites. He calls them whited sepulchres. He calls them vipers. These people who are teaching the law, we're not practicing what they preached. And he really throws condemnation their way in a big way. Why? Because Jesus here is, in Matthew chapter number 5, is putting the practice of the law before the teaching of the law. You need to practice not just what you preach, but you need to practice before you preach or teach. Haven't you ever seen somebody who has been a very staunch believer in pushing a certain way something should be done, but they turn right around and they don't live up to the own standard that they've set? That hurts their testimony, it hurts them, and it hurts the thing that they are pushing. You know, you can have a great, honest, true message, but having a bad messenger takes away from that. Nobody's going to debate whether lying is good or bad. Everybody knows lying is wrong. But if you have a liar talking about you shouldn't lie, then that's going to hurt the truth. And that's what Jesus is saying. You better take seriously. Don't disconnect practice from teaching. And also, he's getting across here that there is a disconnect and sometimes, and there shouldn't be a disconnect between the authority of the Scripture and the morality of the Scripture. The law, Deuteronomy 12:32 says, "What things soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add to or diminish from it." That's speaking of the law. Paul says it this way in Romans chapter 2, verse 21. "Thou therefore that teachest another, teachest thou not thyself? Thou that preachest a man should not steal, dost thou steal? Thou sayest a man should not commit adultery, dost thou commit adultery? Thou abhorrest idols, dost thou commit sacrilege? Thou makest boast of the law, through the breaking of the law dishonorest thou God? For the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, and as it is written." So what's he saying here? Beware of this hypocritical compliance. Sometimes when it comes to teaching and preaching, people only go after the power of the position. Well, look at me. I'm a teacher. I am a preacher. I am this. And they let that power go to their head, and next thing you know, they're out of their wheelhouse and they don't know what they're talking about. And you will face consequences and repercussions because you will be caught. There will be times where you will fall short of this, and you better make sure that you demonstrate the qualities of a person that ought be there when you teach this. And he really puts the focus again on this idea of hallowed compliance. Because in Matthew chapter 5, in verse number 19, the second part, "But whosoever shall do and teach them." See, there's the key. Do and teach. "The same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." So teaching is not only important, but living what you teach is as well. And really, the bottom line is practice what you preach. Now listen, all of us, when we start reading the Scripture, it excites us, and we want to share that with other people. And there's a way to do that when it comes to teaching the law. But you better be the person before you open your mouth and try to influence others. It's a warning of the importance of the law. Don't stop wanting to go out there and teach, but make sure you're willing to view yourself. Make sure you're willing to examine yourself and look into your own life. And if there's something that needs to change, boy, you better change if you're going to be a person that stands on this. Hope you have a great day. God bless you.